Okay, so as a Utah native and someone who's lived here my entire life, here in the Salt Lake City metropolitan area, I wanted to point out something in this video, and that is the east side, west side bias of living here in Salt Lake County. So today I've created a video where we're going to talk about the pros or sell each other on the pros of living on the west side versus living on the east side. And today I brought Megan from my team with me because she happens to live on the east side. I happen to live on the west side, and we're gonna pitch each other on why you should live on the east side versus the west side here in Salt Lake County. And by the end of the video, we're going to see if either of us have changed our minds just a little bit. All right, so I've lived on the west side of the valley almost my entire life. I grew up in Taylorsville and attended Cottonwood High School. And then after coming back and going to college at the University of Utah, I've just bought homes and lived on the west side of the valley in Harriman and South Jordan for my entire adult life. So I can definitely speak to the value of living on the west side. But to speak about the east side, I brought Megan from my team here. Megan, tell me where you live.
I live in Sandy, Utah, and I grew up in Cottonwood Heights, Utah. I still own another home in Cottonwood Heights, Utah. So my family was born and raised in Holiday.
So she is a true East Sider. Holiday, if you don't know, is a really awesome area. So Holiday, Sandy, and Cottonwood Heights, which is where our office is located. So when I go to work, I have to drive 30 minutes to get to the office. She has to drive 5. But in this video, we're going to talk about the different reasons why it's better to live on the east side versus the west side. All right, so each of us have come up with 5 things that we're going to pitch each other on as to why somebody would want to live on the east side or the west side. What's your first one you're gonna pitch, Megan?
The recreation, being close to the mountains, being able to go up skiing at some of the top ski resorts in the world.
I agree.
Brighton, Alta, Solitude, you have easy access to Park City. So yeah, going with the skiing.
All right, I can't argue with skiing and recreation. In the canyons, the access is phenomenal. And where I live, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to get from the west side over to the far east side up to the canyons. So that's definitely a selling point.
Yes, for sure, definitely.
All right, so my first one I'm gonna pitch you on is here in the west side, we typically have bigger homes and they're much newer homes. And I don't think that's something you're gonna find in a lot of places on the east side, but if you like a newer home and a newer community and newer amenities, this is the place to be.
You are correct on that. There's not as many new homes on the east side unless you're willing to drop a lot more money.
Yeah, some people will tear down a home and rebuild it with a new build, or sometimes there's infill where a certain parcel of land has been developed after, decades after the fact that the other neighborhoods have gone in. So those neighborhoods are awesome, but I'm gonna definitely stick to my guns with you get a newer community and a newer home out on the west side. All right, next up, this one's a big one, especially since I have children and so does Megan. And many of you that are watching this video might have children as well. So if you're considering moving to Utah and you have a family, for example, and you have children that are gonna be in school, you might wanna look into the rankings of schools and find out where the better schools are located. I know this is a really big thing for people that have families, that have children. So that's your next one.
Yeah, I ultimately think that the schools are better on the east side. I think that there's less kids in the schools, less kids in each classroom. There are more opportunities to be on different sports teams. You're not competing as much with other kids.
That's really true. So my kids are only 9 and 8 years old. You have a little bit older kids, right?
Yeah, my kids are 16 and 18.
So
I have a 7-year-old too.
A 7-year-old, yeah. So she'll be there before long.
Yeah.
So yeah, like getting your kids opportunities to be not only in good schools, but have the opportunities within those schools to participate in the sports or other activities is a big deal. And the west side schools are definitely more crowded.
Yeah. I have one more thing on that. So on the east side, you can actually put your kid into after school ski programs on Friday. So there you go. So now I can include the schools and the recreation. So this past winter, my daughter was picked up every Friday, and taken up to Snowbird to ski for 2 hours to get a lesson.
That is unbelievable. I can't even compete with that, guys.
East side, yeah.
But what I can say is, it's true. I grew up on the west side in Taylorsville, and the schools were too busy, too packed. So they actually took a segment of where I lived and shipped us to the east side to go to Cottonwood High School. And it's because of the demographics of those neighborhoods. I had a phenomenal experience going to Cottonwood High School, but the reason I went to that high school is because the West Side schools were just too crowded at the time. So far, Megan's winning in this argument for sure.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing I want to pitch on is the fact that if you want space, if you want a bigger lot, more land, a bigger yard, whatever it is, for whatever reason, maybe you have toys, maybe you have RVs, maybe you have whatever toys you have and you want more space for that, you're likely going to find that you have more space on the west side. South Jordan, Harriman, Bluffdale, particularly, including Riverton, and a lot of other areas as well. You're going to typically find more space on the west side because those older homes that are on the east side, they didn't really think about those things. And so a lot of times people have a single driveway or even a 1-car or 2-car garage. Whereas if you come out to the west side, it's really common to have 3-car garages like this home where we're sitting right now. So 3-car or even 4-car garages or detached garages are a big thing. So if that's important to you, I think the west side is definitely the place to be.
Overall, maybe true. If you take away,
true?
Yeah. Daybreak, you don't get the RV places. Like I have 2-car garage and I have room for 2 RVs in my driveway.
Okay, well, that's a fair point because if you do live in Daybreak, it's a completely different story. Daybreak is much more dense than the rest of the west side. So yeah, excluding Daybreak, you have more space. It just so happens that Daybreak is one of the fastest growing communities in the state. So good point.
Yeah, but you get the nice new house, so
you do.
You might be winning on that.
All right, next up, what's your next argument?
My next argument is I don't have to pay HOA fees.
I do.
So most homes on the east side do not have HOAs.
Why do you view that as a pro?
I view that as a pro because I guess I can paint my house pink if I wanted.
I'm going to argue against that. I think that the reason you live on the west side is you do have an HOA so that people don't paint their house pink.
I'm not gonna paint my house.
I don't want my neighbors to have weird yards, weird fences and vehicles parked out front and let their yard go, to grow up over the fences. I actually like having an HOA. I know that HOAs can be a sticky subject, especially when they start fining people and the complaints and everything and the politics that might come into play. But I think there's pros and cons with an HOA. So I'm going to consider this one neutral, and this is a tie.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if you know your neighbors really well and you get to know them, you kind of have these unwritten rules and you help each other out if you need help. And but you just don't have the rules on top of you, or you have to follow something. And
here in Daybreak, you will definitely get to know your neighbors. Maybe that doesn't happen in most neighborhoods, but here it does. All right.
What's your next one?
All right. My next argument is one that I always make, and it takes place every single day. When I leave my home to drive to the office, it usually takes me anywhere from 24 to 30 minutes to drive from Daybreak out in South Jordan over to the far east side up against the mountains in Cottonwood Heights. And my argument is we have much better views on the west side of the Wasatch Range. When we actually step back and we're not right underneath those mountains, we get to see the full magnitude of the mountain range. And this morning was beautiful because it's a stormy, rainy day. The snow-capped mountains with green, lush mountains below and the clouds coming in and setting in right on top of those mountains is just absolutely stunning. I get to see it every single day. But when you live really far east, you don't actually get to see that same view.
I'm going to say that we get city views, though, and sunset views. Have you ever seen the sunset, like sitting out Alpha Coffee and drinking your coffee?
Sunset, yeah. Summer sunsets in Utah are phenomenal. It's one of the best places to be. Yeah. We typically don't get storms and rain in the summer. It's very infrequent. So every night is an amazing sunset as you look out to the west over the Great Salt Lake. And I will admit that if you live on the east side, you probably have better views of that sunset.
Yes, definitely.
And of the city, if you want that city view as well.
I still think you get mountain views, though. They're just a lot
It's
closer.
just different.
You just are looking way up.
When you're right under the mountains, you only get to see that foothill that sticks out. You actually don't see the peaks of the mountains because you're too close to them. All right, so last one. Megan, what's your next one?
Less traffic on the east side. Definitely less traffic because there's less people. Mm-hmm. Well, and in the past, the freeways were closer to the east side. I mean, they are building better freeways.
Yeah, that's my argument against that, is that she is right that the traffic on the west side is worse. And it's because of all the growth that's happening out here. But there are currently 2 freeways that are being built out right now in Bangerter Highway and the Mountain View corridor that will completely change the infrastructure out here on the west side. So the east side will have I-15 running north-south, and then 215, the belt route, but then we'll have Bangerter Highway as well as the Mountain View corridor that connect us to both Utah County and take us directly to the city and to the airport. So in the future, I think this is going to be a wash, but for right now, the traffic out here is definitely worse. When I leave, if I'm leaving in rush hour to go to work, or if I'm coming back around 5 or 6 o'clock, I experience it because the east side, west side bias comes into play in full effect, because traveling east-west is difficult during rush hour. The north-south traffic is pretty great. It's not bad at all, but I will agree with you that you have better traffic on the east side. But stick around, because in the next handful of years, but if you live here and stick around on the west side, you'll notice that that traffic is probably going to get better and better, as Bangerter Highway is only about 18 months out from being converted to a full freeway. And so that's going to be a really big bonus. And then over the coming years, Mountain View corridor will become a freeway as well.
Yeah, and we're sitting out in Daybreak right now, and the more I come out here,
yeah. So
I like it.
What was your comment to me when you first pulled up? Because I came from the office in Cottonwood Heights. I drove back out to Daybreak where I live. And as I drive out here, I'm familiar with this area. But when she got out here, she was a little frustrated because she doesn't know the area, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know it, but every single time I come out here, it looks different.
Yeah.
It is different. And I'm like, where am I? And it's kind of rainy and cloudy today, so I can't see the mountains. I don't know what way I'm facing. In Utah, we go off of the mountains, like east side are the big mountains, or at least that's what we used to call them on the east side. And then west side is the small mountains. But yeah, it is a little bit frustrating because it's just different and new, and I haven't been out here as much. I don't come out here every day like you.
Yeah.
So,
but the more you come out here, the more you're going to like it. And the more you hang out in homes just like this home right here that we're in today. By the way, this home was built by Rainey Homes. And Rainey happens to be one of the best builders in Utah, as well as Daybreak. I love Rainey Homes because when you walk in, you can instantly tell a difference between their homes and other homes. But as you come out to this home and experience Daybreak and experience the west side, you're probably going to be a little more inclined to be open-minded. And for me personally, on the flip side, my absolute favorite neighborhood in the entire city, if I could just drop a few $1 million on a home, is Yellcrest. And that is right in the heart of the city on the east side. And if you haven't checked out that video that I've recently posted about where Salt Lake City's wealthy people live, it is Yellcrest.
hey, Scott, we have to wrap this up because I have to beat the traffic back to the east side.
All right, so we're taking off now. Megan can get back home, beating the traffic for rush hour. And if you want to see more about what life in Utah is like, check out this playlist. And until next video, thanks.